2012 was the birth of the Sword Art Online anime. Fast forward to 2015, it seemed like most people who had watched it liked it and sometimes even loved it. And this showed no signs of slowing down. And during that time, actually, it was one of the few animes that had apparel in stores outside of the big three. Now, don't get me wrong, 99% of it was, one of the big three, the Dragon Ball, Naruto, and Bleach attire. But every once in a while, you would just see a guy in a cloak and a girl with orange hair. And that was Sword Art Online. Like I said, once in a while. Yeah, back in those days, it was actually a pretty popular anime with good feedback, and it was something that people recommended to other people who were fans of the fantasy genre. But only a few years later, public opinion completely changed. The anime is now constantly slammed by the pillars of the community, or, bigger content creators, in other words. And generally is only brought up as an example of what an isekai or an anime should never be. It was only a few years. What happened? A matter of fact, most people in 2023 don't even realize that this anime hasn't even ended, it's still going. But we'll talk more about that later, so stick with me, because boy do I have some shit to say about that. But yeah, actually I've seen in other people's comment sections, like on other reviews of animes, saying things along the lines of, yeah, this season wasn't that great, but hey, at least it's not Sword Art Online. Am I right, fellas? Why? And sure, there are some people who still stand by it being a good anime, one that they enjoyed. And there are some few newcomers who, agree. And that small group of people wonder why everybody hates it so much. But believe me when I say this group of people is an outcast compared to the broader community, at least online. Maybe if you walked around, knock knock, door to door, get slapped in the face a few times, you would come out with a different survey for how many people really enjoyed it, but online it looks like it's severely hated. Never watch Sword Art Online. And don't get me wrong, by no means is this anime some type of masterclass. It's definitely not. Especially when you compare it to the animes also as of recent that have just been absolute mwah. You got your Attack on Titans, your Demon Slayer, the animation, oh my god, amazing. And of course your Jujutsu Kaisen's, Chainsaw Man's. I mean, it's hard for Sword Art Online to compete. And I think it would actually be unfair to even put it in the same category as the others I've mentioned a second ago. Yeah, they're all anime, they're in the same category. Shut up, they're not the same. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, I could understand when you relatively compared to those, how you might think Sword Art Online is dog water. And by the way, I'm going to start saying SAO for short, so just, if I say that, you know what I mean, because Sword Art Online over and over again, I'm just going to run out of breath here. So here's the thing, there are other animes that came out around the same time frame, ones that are definitely, I would say, not as good as Sword Art Online, in my opinion, but it doesn't get the same treatment as SAO does. For some reason, those do not. For some reason, whenever those crappy ones come out, still enjoyable by the way, don't let people tell you different. Go watch those anime too, even the crappy ones, they're hilarious, they're awesome, but they're still, like, Sword Art Online's better than most of those. So why does SAO get this treatment, as opposed to some of the other bad ones? Wait, I thought you would have the answer. I don't. I damn sure don't. I was literally asking. But regardless, one day I went to sleep with a bunch of fellow Sword Art Online, fans or enjoyers, maybe not fans, but people who thought the show was okay or good, and woke up one day with no one on my side. And I wondered why. Like, literally, I blinked. What the fuck just happened? I will say SAO has some things that aren't great about it, and by some things, I mean a whole bunch of things. And this is coming from a fan of the series, okay? But hear me out. I don't think you're hearing me out. Just 1 second. Hear me out. But as the story continues, I'm starting to believe even the biggest haters might need to give it another chance. There, I said it. Don't click off the video. I'm going to try to back this up, okay? Alright, I'm going to try to explain to you why I'm saying this. So it's time to dive in, but just for a second right before we dive in, if you guys are interested in a full, lengthy review of this anime, oh my gosh, that would be painful. But I'm a fan of it, so if you guys want that, let me know down below, and I will make that happen for you. Also, if you want to see some more videos, make sure to subscribe and like. That would be much appreciated. First, let's go over some understandable complaints some of these people might have, and some of them may even be right about. Things that are kind of common knowledge at this point, based off of these multi-million view videos just slandering it. But either way. And then after we get through all that, I will explain to you why these things might have changed, or why they might not even be relevant at this point. And has definitely gotten better since you either dropped it or just never decided to watch it anyways. So number one, Kirito was overpowered too quickly. Really? Well, let me say this, you're not wrong. But it's not like it's the only anime in history with this problem, or I wouldn't even call it a problem. Kirito is definitely not the only one who's came in there like a god. Matter of fact, some animes, the main character is literally a god. And people don't have things to say about that, so. And now that I'm really thinking about it, I'm pretty sure this is a very common thing for the main character to just be overpowered from the get-go. It's very normal. So in other words, I think people who complain about this are just sipping haterade, okay? Because you probably like other animes that have overpowered MCs. You just want to hate on Sword Art. I get it. I've been a hater a few times in my life, okay? That shit don't make sense though. Matter of fact, I guarantee you, if you were to spin a wheel with 100 of the top MCs in anime history, I bet most of the time you landed on a character, they would be overpowered as fuck. I bet I would bet money on that. And don't start typing in the comments, well, this character isn't, well, this character isn't. Listen, I've watched some where they aren't either, but my point is most of them. And for those of you watching this video, I think you could agree with this point. So then why does this feel so different? Because the thing is, I kind of feel the same way to some degree too. Whenever people say that, I'm kind of like, yeah, and then I have to think about it and I go, well, aren't a lot of them? So why do I want to inherently agree with this? And this is where I have no rebuttal. The background for his powers and ability is horrendous, horrible, worst thing in the world. McDonald's dollar menu after 12 a.m. The story for how he had his power, you know what? A matter of fact, I'm just gonna give you an analogy. Let's do an analogy for how he got his power. Some of you may understand this, some of you may not, but either way, I think you'll get the point. It's the equivalent of having a Minecraft server with a friend. You and him, you play quite a bit, and you know, you're going at a slow rate, gathering resources and stuff, and then you go to bed. And he's like, I might stay on like an extra hour or so. And then, let's say a couple days later, or even the next day, you hop on with him, and all of a sudden he has all diamond gear, and basically, you know, has defeated the Ender Dragon already, and probably has an enchanted pig named Winston. And of course, you know, you're gonna ask him how he did this, because he's gotta be cheating or something. And then the only thing he tells you is, yeah, well, I stayed on, you know, maybe more than an hour, just a couple hours. Trust me, I got all this stuff while you were gone. It didn't take that long. And then I'm like, no, I don't care if this is true or not. It's just not fair. I'm not having fun anymore. And you can keep your hand-me-down ass iron armor. And basically, that's how Sword Art Online's background for his power was. This guy was OP as hell, and his only answer for that was, I did it while you weren't looking. Duh. And I'm gonna be honest, this isn't a great opening for a show. It makes it not as truly memorable. Sure, there were still some memorable moments, like in the Aincrad arc, when Asuna and Kirito made it more official after Kirito basically got his ass handed to him by Poison. And then, of course, the ending. But that is not nearly enough for it to withstand the test of time. The classic weak to strong, rag to riches just wasn't there. It might be a cliche, but it's something that actually matters for something to be memorable. It makes it a little bit harder to look back fondly of a character. And remember, I did say SAO deserves another chance, but as far as this complaint goes, and this problem with the anime, this is kind of irredeemable. There's not much I can say about that. And even if they gave us some type of prelude for Kirito in the beta or something, I mean, what are we gonna do? You know, watch him learn the controls, you know, try to jack off one time in VR. So even with that said, I don't think you would want to rewrite history in that way, because I don't think it would add much to the story anyways. Maybe it would, I guess it would depend, I'm not a writer. But that's just my 2 cents. But outside of that opening, as far as character building and character background goes, SAO has improved significantly since 2012. I'm not joking, I'm not memeing, and I actually say this confidently. I've watched it. Both with the new characters that are introduced to the story, as well as some insights that we gained into some older characters or more core characters of the story like Asuna that were fantastic and I do love. Which is pretty weird that we didn't get a lot of background on her until later on in the story, but I'm glad that we are. And for those who stuck around, it is a nice treat, gotta say. And a matter of fact, I guess the person who's making the story can even admit that they can't go back and right the wrongs of Kirito's, you know, beginning, but they did give him another beginning at a certain point in the story. In the Alicization arc by basically making him baby Kirito, with other artificial characters to grow up with him as well, in like a weird sim kind of way. That sounds even weirder to explain, but it's really good. And whenever I first seen this, it actually pissed me off in some ways, like, whoa, are you trying to rewrite, are you trying to just start anew in the middle here by coming up with some bullcrap? So I was a little pissed off at first, but as it kind of went past that and I stuck around because I was bored, I'm actually a big fan of it, and I think you will be too. You just have to weather the storm of baby Kirito. I did like how it progressed from there quite a bit, so that's good. So another problem people had with SAO were the time skips. Son of a gun, the time skips. Why? Why would we skip all this good plot? Why are characters talking about things that we had no part in? What the hell? And like I said before, this is another one of those things that do happen in other animes, but let me tell you, whenever SAO just did it a ridiculous amount, I agree with that. But they've gotten quite a bit better at that as well. Like, sure, there still are some time skips in it, but it isn't as ridiculous as it was toward the beginning of the story. And on top of that, if you guys have been paying attention, the SAO movie did come out progressive. And those are pretty good at filling in some of the gaps during the earlier story with Aincrad. And you guys should check out that movie, because I was a fan of it. But even better than that, those are based off the SAO progressive books, and there's actually quite a few of those. So, you know, if you want a little bit more background, you're a little bit angry about the shit that you didn't get to see in the story, feel free. They're out there. They're awesome. Do it. Anyways, that was just a little tip for you guys if you want to get filled in a little more. So there you have it. Those are the two issues that definitely want to make people not check out this anime or even mess with it, or at least the basis for it, because those things kind of spread in other ways into bad things like static characters, you know, shallow characters, but those are kind of the basis for the issues that people have with it, in my opinion, besides the tentacle scene. That is something we do not speak of ever. Okay, it was horrible. I am not a fan. I mean, it definitely served its purpose of making sure we understood that these people that they were going against were definitely just straight up evil, you know, not one of those like, maybe they're evil, you are a bad guy, but not bad guy kind of thing. No, they definitely were, but they didn't have to do that. Anyways, these things added up to make people dislike the story a lot. But as I said before, at one point, it was a very popular story. So really, it made them dislike it in the long run. It's a semi-lackluster plot in a lot of ways, aka a simple one. Which, you know, call me a simple guy because I'm not necessarily a hater of it. I wasn't against it at the time. I'm just trying to peer into the perspective of the people who don't like it. But regardless of that, it has gotten much, much, much better. Speaking of which, the Alicization arc as a whole just makes me hard. And when I say hard, I mean hard to look away from the screen, am I right? There is some moments in this part of SAO that unfortunately a lot of you haven't gotten to experience from dropping the show. Also, the animation's kind of good too, so, you know, if you're one of those kind of guys, I'd say check it out. And although it takes a while to get to this part of the story, I will say, damn it, it is worth it. In my opinion, they finally managed to make the overlap of the virtual, you know, fake worlds and sim worlds and the real world work, without it feeling like you were basically changing completely different animes or doing weird, you know, cop-out things to make the other thing work. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the story was having a really hard time with it at first, moving on to like the second arc and, you know, the third arc, aka the fairy one and the gun gale one. Something about the entanglement of the real life and that virtual world just, it didn't really do very good at that, and I was not a fan of it at that point, but I still watched it. It was good enough, for me at least. For a lot of you, it probably wouldn't have been. But they fixed it. They fixed it in my opinion. And along with that, Sword Art Online, another thing, you might remember it, apart from the tentacle thing, being PG, but I wouldn't say it's PG anymore. Man, they got some shit going on in that. They do. I did not know SAO was gonna get some gore, but here we are. And for some of you, this might be a bad thing, but for me, it's like, oh shit, we turn it up. Yeah, I want to sit back in my seat like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I felt that. So yeah, gory deaths now instead of like Adobe Premiere fading off. A good villain, but more importantly, a hot villain. I mean, we have our priorities straight over here. As well as a multi-level plot, you know, that involves finding a childhood friend from Kirito's, you know, baby arc. And then, speaking of Kirito, actually having to save Kirito. And fuck, I guess we're saving Kirito again after he became a vegetable. Oh gosh, I don't even want to remember that. Those are rough points of the story right there. But for those of you who said he was overpowered, I guess that's a good thing, huh? Maybe I should have brought that up earlier. Which, even though it was pain, it was great because it gave us more of like an in-depth, you know, zoom in and focus on some of the new characters that were introduced in the Alicization arc, which was awesome. And like I said, they're better at world building now and character building, so keep that in mind. That is part of it. But boy, there was some good damn fights too. And I mean like actually really good. I'm not joking, okay? Like, story felt, you know, makes you like sad, makes you happy, makes you get up out your chair. And I'm not just trying to hype this up for no reason. They were legitimately just so good. And there was multiple. One thing's for sure though, Sword Art Online has come a long way in the last decade. From normal teenagers getting trapped in a video game to where we are today. And it was a fucking leap and a half to get here. But it's awesome. Now all of a sudden they're doing research and AI development and, you know, artificial souls and stuff. That's part of the anime. Shit's wild, man. So basically an AI, except like more AI-y. And somehow Yui is still in the anime making it happen all this time later. Whether in a video game or in real life, but not real life. And I'm thankful that even though the story's come this far, a lot of the basics haven't changed and it hasn't even been a bad thing. Such as, you know, going into these virtual worlds. You can die if you're in there, and then if you die in there, you die in real life. All that's still there, and it's not repetitive. It's actually pretty good, and they change how that works and why that is. But hey, you can accomplish anything with good writing, am I right? And you would imagine the characters would learn by now not to go into that stuff, you know. For real, learn, people. what the hell. But I'm gonna be honest, Sword Art Online where it is now is absolutely fire. And for the people who hate SAO, just do me a solid, give it a shot. And for the people who loved SAO Arc 1 like I did, this might just outdo it. But I'll leave that for you guys to decide.